The Silent Feast. The death of Joffrey Baratheon in Game of Thrones is one of the most intense and anticipated moments for fans. The so-called Purple Wedding takes place in the Red Keep during the wedding feast of Joffrey and Margaery Tyrell. At the height of his arrogance, Joffrey humiliates Tyrion Lannister in front of the entire court, forcing him to serve as his cupbearer. As the Hall laughs at his cruelty, he drinks from his wine goblet, unaware that the poison known as the Strangler had been carefully slipped into it. Within seconds, he starts coughing, choking, and losing control. His face changes color, going from red to a deep purple as foam and blood pour from his mouth. The crowd watches in horror, and Cersei rushes to her son's arms, desperate, while he fights for every breath. This scene was designed to make viewers uncomfortable. The long duration of Joffrey's agony makes his death slow, painful, and extremely graphic, and, let's be honest, very satisfying to watch. Later, we learn that it was all orchestrated by Peter Baelish and Olenna Tyrell, who wanted to protect Margaery from marrying a sadistic king. Olenna discreetly places the poison in the cup, and Tyrion ends up as the perfect scapegoat. Hold the door. Hodor's death in Game of Thrones is remembered as one of the saddest and most emotional scenes in the entire series. In the episode The Door from Season 6, the Three-Eyed Raven's Cave is invaded by an army of wights led by the Night King. It all starts when Bran Stark enters a vision without permission and is touched by the Night King, breaking the magical barrier protecting the cave. With the sanctuary compromised, Mira Reed desperately tries to flee while dragging Bran. Hodor, under Bran's warg control, runs through the underground tunnels. When they reach an exit, Mira screams as the wights charge. Hodor uses all his strength to keep the door shut, fully aware that he's doomed. Meanwhile, in the past, Bran is connected to young Wylis's mind. Mira's screams echo through time, making the boy repeat, "Hold the door!" The words blur together, turning into Hodor, and the trauma shatters his mind forever. Hold the door! 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 In the present, Hodor holds the door long enough for Bran and Mira to escape, but is torn apart by the undead. The revelation that his heroic sacrifice was caused by Bran's interference in the past adds a tragic weight to the scene. It was a silent, painful, and unforgettable death. Honor cut short. The death of Ned Stark is, without a doubt, one of the most iconic and brutal moments in Game of Thrones. In Episode 9 of Season 1, everyone thought he'd survive. After all, he was the main character, the hero of the story, right? Well, the Westeros doesn't forgive anyone. After discovering that Joffrey wasn't Robert Baratheon's legitimate son, Ned tried to protect the realm and his daughters, but he was betrayed, imprisoned, and accused of treason. To save Sansa and Arya, he agreed to confess to crimes he didn't commit, believing he'd be spared and sent to the Wall.
I come before you to confess my treason in the sight of gods and men. I betrayed the faith of my king and the trust of my friend Robert. I swore to protect and defend his children, but before his blood was cold, I plotted to murder his son and seize the throne for myself.
On the day of the execution, the atmosphere is heavy. Sansa stands above, believing she's about to see her father walk free. Arya hides among the crowd. Ned kneels, and it all seems headed toward exile, until Joffrey, with his sadistic grin, changes everything. The young king announces that mercy isn't enough and orders the immediate execution. Sir Elend Payne raises his blade and, with one clean strike, cuts off Ned Stark's head. It wasn't just the death of a beloved character, it was a brutal message that no one is safe in this story. His execution sparked the War of the Five Kings. Seriously, I still get angry remembering how Joffrey made Sansa look at her father's severed head on display for everyone to see. And before we continue, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the videos. Vengeance gone wrong. Game of Thrones has plenty of brutal deaths, but Oberyn Martell's is one of the most shocking. He enters a trial by combat, defending Tyrion Lannister, who's accused of killing Joffrey. Oberyn walks into the arena confident, light on his feet, eyes sharp. He wants revenge. Across from him stands Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, a massive, silent monster in armor. The crowd roars. It's a fight to the death. Oberyn moves fast, dodging easily and wounding the Mountain several times. Each strike feels like victory, but Oberyn doesn't just want to kill. He wants a confession. He wants the truth about his sister. He keeps yelling, demanding the confession, circling his enemy, taunting, thinking he's fully in control. The Mountain weakens, collapses, but Oberyn steps too close. Fatal mistake.
Can't die yet, you haven't confessed.
Suddenly, it all changes. The Mountain grabs Oberyn's ankle and throws him to the ground. The force is inhuman. He falls with no time to react. The Mountain climbs on top of him, punching over and over, each blow crushing more of his face. The crowd watches in horror. And then he presses down, crushes Oberyn's eyes. His scream is drowned out by the sound of his skull cracking. In seconds, the Prince of Dorne is dead, and the saddest part, in that very moment, he gets the confession he was after. A cruel end for one of the show's most charismatic characters. A crown of gold. Viserys Targaryen always saw himself as a king. Arrogant, impatient, and obsessed with the Iron Throne. He believed the world revolved around him. To get an army, he sold his own sister, Daenerys Targaryen, into marriage with Khal Drogo. In return, he was promised Dothraki warriors to conquer Westeros. The problem was, Drogo wasn't in any hurry, and Viserys hated waiting. With each passing day, his threats became more reckless, until, during a feast in Vies Dothrak, he completely lost control. Drunk and armed, Viserys storms into the sacred Dothraki hall, shouting at everyone. He demands his crown of gold. Then he threatens to cut Daenerys' belly open, even though she's pregnant. A fatal mistake. Drogo watches calmly. Without raising his voice, he promises Viserys the crown he wants so badly, just the Dothraki way. Viserys is seized. Drogo gathers his gold medallions and melts them slowly over the fire.
A crown for a king.
Viserys starts sweating as the tension fills the room. When the gold turns liquid, Drogo pours it over his head. The molten metal flows like fire. He collapses instantly dead. Daenerys watches coldly and says he was no dragon, because fire cannot kill a dragon. Cersei's revenge. This is where Cersei finally gets revenge after the humiliation she suffered from the Faith of the Seven. It happens right after the explosion of the Great Sept of Baelor. The High Sparrow and all of Cersei's enemies are dead, and Septa Unella becomes her next target. Unella is dragged to the Red Keep's dungeons, tied to a table, completely helpless. Cersei enters the room with a cold smile. She mocks Unella's faith, pouring wine over her face, imitating the drowning method the Septa once used for forced confessions. Cersei confesses her crimes with irony. Robert Baratheon's death, the Sept's destruction, everything. Unella refuses to give in. Then Cersei's tone changes. She tells Unella she won't die there. She'll suffer much more. She says the gods have abandoned her, and that her new god will be the Mount. Cersei leaves the room repeating shame, the same word Unella once shouted at her, and locks the door.
Shame. Shame.
Unella's exact fate is never shown, but her screams echo through the hall, hinting at a brutal torture. It's a terrifying scene, leaving the audience's imagination to fill in the horror. The sacrifice. Shireen Baratheon suffered one of the most tragic fates in the entire series. When I first saw it, I couldn't believe it. Stannis' army is trapped in the north, snow everywhere, supplies running low. The march toward Winterfell grows more desperate by the day. Melisandre convinces Stannis that the only way to win is through a sacrifice of royal blood. She points to Shireen, his daughter, as the key to victory.
Where's my father?
Stannis hesitates, but desperation takes over. He agrees to the sacrifice. Selyse, Shireen's mother, cries and tries to stop it, but it's useless. Sweet, innocent Shireen is tied to the stake. The flames rise. Her screams echo through the camp. Selyse's despair is unbearable. Stannis watches, consumed by the belief that he's saving his army.
Please, father! Father!
But the sacrifice brings no victory. Stannis' army is destroyed and he is killed. The pain and betrayal make this one of the most infuriating deaths in the entire series. The Red Wedding, yeah, you knew we'd get here eventually. The bloodiest scene in Game of Thrones happens at the infamous Red Wedding, a feast full of laughter, music, and raised glasses. That turns into a massacre. The celebration is meant to honor the marriage between Edmure Tully and Rosalind Frey, but in truth, it's all a trap. Walder Frey, Rose Bolton, and Tywin Lannister planned every detail. When the doors close and the music changes, no one understands. Until the arrows start flying. Robb Stark, the king in the north, is hit by multiple crossbow bolts. Talisa Stark, his pregnant wife, is brutally stabbed in the stomach by Lothar Frey. No escape, no mercy. Catelyn Stark watches everything, screaming, begging. She tries to take a hostage, but Walder Frey doesn't care.
Mother.
Moments later, Black Walder Rivers slits her throat in front of everyone. Grey Wind, Robb's direwolf, is shot with arrows, and in one final insult, his head is sewn onto Robb's decapitated body. Stark soldiers fall one by one. Small John Umber, Dacy Mormont, Sir Wendell Manderly, all dead trying to defend their king. The carnage is complete. The Frey Hall becomes a battlefield. Blood on the floor, music still playing as if nothing happened. That's where the North's hope died, and one of the most unforgettable scenes in the series was born. The dogs. Ramsay Bolton finally pays for all his crimes. In episode 9 of season 6, after losing the Battle of of the bastards, he's captured in Winterfell, injured, humiliated, and completely powerless. His reign of terror ends exactly as it should, brutally. Jon Snow nearly kills him during the fight, but it's Sansa who delivers the final act of revenge. She confronts Ramsay in his cell, reminding him of his greatest pride, his pack of loyal, starving dogs. Ramsay smirks, still arrogant, unaware that his own power is turned against him. Now his dogs would be the ones to end him. Sansa calmly tells him that his hounds haven't been fed in days. A cold smile spreads across her face. She opens the kennel door and unleashes the dogs. Terror fills Ramsay's eyes. He tries to fight them off, but there's no escape. The same beast he used to torture others now devour their master. Sansa watches from a distance, unmoved, taking in every second. When it's over, she walks away quietly, finally free. The Kiss. The story of Myrcella Baratheon and Tywin Sand's deaths is a full circle of vengeance. It begins with Ellaria Sand's grief and ends with Cersei Lannister's merciless retribution. After Oberyn's brutal death, Ellaria vows revenge. Her target? Cersei's daughter Myrcella, who's in Dorne, betrothed to Prince Trystane. Despite Doran Martell's efforts to keep the peace, Ellaria and the Sand Snakes choose blood over diplomacy. During their farewell, Ellaria gives Myrcella a kiss. Not a loving one, but a deadly one. Poison, the widow's wail, is already on her lips, silent and lethal. Myrcella boards the ship happy, finally at peace with Jaime, but the voyage turns tragic. The poison takes hold and she dies in her father's arms. It's a heartbreaking, cruel moment. And Cersei? She doesn't forgive. When Ellaria and Tywin are captured by Euron Greyjoy and handed over to her, the queen sees her perfect chance to strike back. Locked in a damp dungeon, Ellaria faces every mother's nightmare. Cersei kisses Tywin with the same poison, but instead of a quick death, Ellaria is forced to watch her daughter die and rot beside her, chained in that cell. Cold, calculated, and merciless revenge. Stabbed in the snow, Jon Snow's death was another moment that completely shocked fans. He was Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, respected by many but hated by some. His decision to ally with the wildlings divided the Watch. For some, he was saving lives. For others, he had betrayed everything they stood for. In the final scene of the episode, Mother's Mercy, Jon is called to the castle Black Courtyard. The night is freezing and silent as a group of brothers surrounds him. One of them holds up a crude sign that reads, "Traitor." Confused, Jon steps closer. Then comes the first stab. Alliser Thorne plunges a knife into his stomach without hesitation. One by one, the others follow, each repeating the words, "For the Watch." The final blow comes from Ollie, the boy Jon saw as a little brother. Jon collapses to his knees, bleeding out into the cold snow. The contrast of red blood against white ground makes the scene even more striking. He stares at the sky, alone, and falls. It was an act of pure betrayal by those he trusted most. Even though his death wasn't permanent, since Melisandre later resurrects him, it marked a turning point. Jon died as commander, and was reborn as someone entirely different. On screen, there's another great video I think you'll really like. Click and watch. I'll see you there.